Welcome back, everyone. We have a really interesting deep dive for you all today. You all have sent over some really fascinating research on data centers, specifically some excerpts from Global Data Center Market 2025 to 2029. We're excited to dig into it with you, so get this. The report predicts that the market is going to add over $500 billion in value in just a few years.
Yeah, it's an incredible number, isn't it?
Yeah, that's not chump change.
It really highlights just how important data centers are becoming,
Yeah.
in our increasingly digital world.
Totally. But you're probably wondering, like, what is fueling this data center explosion? It turns out the answer is actually pretty straightforward. We are creating more data than ever before,
Exactly.
and it all has to be stored and processed somewhere.
Think about all the photos and videos, online shopping, social media activity, all happening every second. It adds up pretty quickly.
Yeah, it does.
And it's not just our personal digital lives either. Businesses are also going through these huge digital transformations. They rely more and more on data for decision-making and automation.
Oh, yeah, for sure. So it's this data deluge that's driving the demand for more and bigger data centers.
Precisely. The reports actually put a number on it. It says that the market is projected to grow at a compound annual growth rate, or what we call KGR, of 15.6% during this whole forecast period.
Wow, 15.6%. That's a lot faster than a lot of other industries are growing. It seems like we're not just talking about keeping up with the current demand, but we are also preparing for a future where data creation just explodes even further. And it's not just about storing this data either, it's about processing it. Your research highlights some pretty cutting-edge technologies that are actually transforming how data centers operate, like AI and machine learning.
Yeah. The integration of AI into data centers is a fascinating development.
Hmm.
It's really being used to optimize data center operations in some pretty remarkable ways, from improving energy efficiency to even predicting potential problems, before they even occur.
Yeah, the idea of AI managing data centers is kind of mind-blowing to me. What are
Yeah.
some specific examples of how that's actually happening?
Well, one of the most significant applications is in energy management. Data centers consume vast amounts of energy, which is a major concern for both cost and sustainability, of course. But AI can fine-tune cooling systems and server performance in real time, minimizing waste and reducing the overall carbon footprint.
So AI is basically acting like a super efficient thermostat for the entire data center.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
That's incredible.
And it's not just reacting to temperature changes, it's about anticipating them. By analyzing data from various sensors, AI can actually predict potential cooling issues before they occur, which allows operators to take proactive measures.
That's amazing. It seems like AI could play a really big role in making data centers more environmentally friendly, which is obviously a huge plus.
Absolutely. In fact, your research mentions that the Department of Energy is even offering grants to support innovations in green data centers. So there's a real push from both the private and public sectors to address this challenge.
That's really encouraging to hear. But it sounds like AI in data centers isn't just about going green. What are some other ways that it's being used to make things run more smoothly?
Another key area is predictive maintenance. By analyzing data from all these various sensors throughout the data center, AI can identify some subtle patterns and anomalies that might indicate potential equipment failure. This allows operators to address these issues, before they actually cause any downtime, which can be incredibly costly for businesses.
So it's like having a virtual mechanic, constantly monitoring the health of the entire data center.
That's a great analogy. It's all about shifting from a reactive approach to a proactive one, and AI is making that possible.
It sounds incredibly efficient, but it makes me wonder about the human element. Are we talking about robots taking over data centers completely? Is that where all of this is heading?
Not quite. While AI can automate a lot of these tasks, human expertise is still essential, especially when it comes to complex decision-making, strategy, and oversight. Think of it more as a collaboration between humans and AI, each kind of leveraging their own unique strengths to achieve these optimal outcomes.
Okay, so it's more about augmenting human capabilities than replacing them altogether. That makes a lot more sense. But what about the potential downsides? The things that actually keep data center operators up at night? Because it can't all be smooth sailing, right? What are some of those challenges?
Well, that's a great segue into the next part of our deep dive. While the future of data centers is undoubtedly exciting, there are definitely some significant challenges that need to be addressed, and that's what we'll explore next.
So we've talked about all this incredible growth in data centers and how AI is playing, this key role in making them more efficient. But like you were saying, there are also some big challenges that the industry is facing. What's the biggest thing that keeps data center operators up at night?
Well, I think cybersecurity is definitely top of mind for anyone working in data centers. With so much sensitive information flowing through data centers, they're prime targets for all sorts of cybercriminals.
Yeah, you're right. It seems like we hear about a new data breach every other week. One of the articles you said mentioned the recent attack on Name, a specific data breach from the listener's research. What makes these attacks so difficult to prevent?
Well, it's a constant arms race, really. As security measures improve, so do the tactics of cybercriminals. They become more sophisticated. And with the growing adoption of cloud services and the Internet of Things, the potential points of vulnerability are constantly expanding.
Right, the attack surface, as they call it. So it's not just about protecting the physical data center anymore. It's about securing all these interconnected devices and systems. That sounds like a massive undertaking. What are some of the specific strategies data center operators are using to actually combat these threats?
Well, they're really employing this multi-layered approach to security. They're incorporating everything from, firewalls and intrusion detection systems to advanced encryption techniques and even behavioral analytics. It's really about identifying and mitigating risks at every level.
It sounds like there's a lot of emphasis on prevention, but what happens when a breach does occur? What are the implications for the businesses that rely on these data centers?
Well, the consequences can be pretty severe, ranging from financial losses and regulatory fines to reputational damage and a loss of customer trust. It can actually take years for a company to fully recover from a major data breach.
Wow, that's crazy. You're right. It's not just about the immediate costs, but the long-term impact on the company's brand and its credibility. It seems like a lot of pressure for these data center operators to get it right.
Oh, absolutely. And it's not just about cybersecurity either. Data center operators are facing this constant balancing act, trying to provide this high performance and reliability while also keeping costs in check.
Right. It seems like there are a lot of competing priorities there. From your research, what are some of the biggest trade-offs they have to make?
One of the key challenges is managing energy consumption. Data centers are known to be very energy intensive, which can drive up operating costs and contribute to environmental concerns, of course. So there's this constant push to find more efficient cooling solutions and optimize server performance to reduce energy usage.
It seems like sustainability is becoming a much bigger factor in data center design and operations. Are there any sort of innovative approaches out there that are addressing this challenge?
Definitely. We're seeing a move toward more sustainable cooling technologies, like using liquid cooling systems, and even utilizing natural resources, such as outside air or groundwater, to help regulate temperatures. Some data centers are even being built in colder climates, just to take advantage of naturally lower temperatures.
That's really clever. So it's not just about making the equipment inside the data center more efficient, but also thinking about the environment that it's actually located in.
Exactly. It's a much more holistic approach to sustainability.
We've talked a lot about the physical aspects of data centers, but what about the way they're actually being used? Your notes mention this big shift toward cloud computing. Can you explain what that means and how it's impacting the data center world?
Yeah, so cloud computing, it's essentially a way to access computing resources over the internet, things like servers, storage, and software, instead of having them physically located in your own building.
So instead of having your own server room, you're basically renting space and resources from a cloud provider.
Exactly. And the shift to the cloud is having this huge impact on the whole data center landscape. It offers businesses a lot of benefits, like scalability, flexibility, and cost savings.
I can definitely see the appeal. It's like the difference between owning a car and using a ride-sharing service. You only pay for what you need when you need it.
That's a great analogy, and it kind of highlights why cloud computing is becoming so popular.
Your notes also mention this concern about traditional data centers becoming obsolete, with the rise of cloud computing. Is that a realistic scenario? How do you see these two models coexisting in the future?
That's a really interesting question. While some people might predict the demise of traditional data centers, I think the reality is a bit more nuanced. I think there will likely always be a need for both. While the cloud offers a lot of advantages, some businesses have specific requirements or security concerns that make those on-premise data centers a better fit.
That makes sense. For example, your research mentioned that some industries, like healthcare and finance, have very strict regulations about how data is handled. It seems like those types of businesses might be more hesitant to, put all their eggs in the cloud basket.
You're absolutely right. Those industries often deal with very sensitive data and have to comply with all sorts of strict privacy laws. So having more direct control over their data and infrastructure can be really crucial for them.
So it's not a one-size-fits-all situation. It's about choosing the right approach based on a company's specific needs and risk tolerance.
Precisely. And that's where another interesting trend comes in, the rise of hybrid cloud solutions.
Ah, hybrid cloud. Now, there's a buzzword I hear all the time. But what does it actually mean in the context of data centers?
Well, essentially, it's a combination of public cloud services, like those offered by Amazon Web Services or Microsoft Azure, and a company's own private cloud infrastructure.
So it's kind of like getting the best of both worlds. You can take advantage of the cloud's flexibility and scalability while still maintaining control over your most sensitive data.
Exactly. Businesses can pick and choose which applications and data are best suited for the public cloud versus their own private cloud. It's all about finding that right balance.
That sounds like a really strategic approach,
Hmm.
especially for companies that are dealing with a mix of data types and security requirements.
Yeah, it definitely offers a lot of flexibility. And as the technology continues to evolve, I think we'll see even more sophisticated hybrid cloud solutions kind of emerge.
It's amazing to think how much the data center landscape is changing and how fast these new technologies are being adopted.
Yeah, it's a very dynamic field. And it's only going to become more important as our reliance on data continues to grow.
Absolutely. Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive today. We started by talking about the explosive growth of the data center market, fueled by this incredible data deluge, as we called it. We then explored how AI is transforming data center operations, making them more efficient and sustainable.
Yeah, and we also delved into some of the challenges that data center operators face, from cybersecurity threats to the balancing act of performance, cost, and sustainability. And then we wrapped up by talking about cloud computing and these hybrid cloud solutions, which are really reshaping the future of the industry.
It's been a fascinating journey, and I think you've provided some incredible insights that'll be really valuable for anyone trying to understand this complex world.
Well, it's been my pleasure. And before we finish, I want to leave you with one final thought. With data centers becoming so central to our lives, it's important to consider the broader implications, right? What does this all mean for the future of privacy, security, and even our own personal digital footprint?
That's an excellent point. It's something we should all be thinking about as we navigate this increasingly data-driven world.
Absolutely. So as you continue your research, I encourage you to keep those questions in mind.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. It's been a really enlightening conversation.
Thanks for having me.
And to our listeners, we hope you found this exploration of data centers informative and thought-provoking. Until next time, keep diving deep.